Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we are going to do the top 5 hardest questions on the practice test 8 calculator math section. If you haven't already watched, I have also done this for the practice test 3 calculator section. So I'll link that in the bio, so definitely go watch that as well, the top 5 questions from there. So without further ado, let's get kicking into the video. All right, so we are first going to begin here with question number 26. So to determine the mean number of children, a mean is just a fancy statistical way of saying average. So to determine the average number of children per household, Tabitha surveyed 20 families at a playground. For the 20 families surveyed, the mean number of children was 2.4. Which of the following statements must be true? So these statistics questions where they give you a scenario and then ask which of the following is true, these are extremely common and they always come up towards the upper end or the middle part of the 20s on the calculator section. So let's begin with A. That is saying that the average number of children per household in the community is 2.4. Well, she surveyed 20 families. They don't tell us how many families there are in the community. We don't even know how many households there are in the community. So let's say she only surveyed 20 families and then there were actually, 1,000 households, families in the community. So that doesn't mean that her sample is perfectly representative of the community at large. So we can't assume that every single household, their average would come out to, when we average them all, 2.4. So that's got to go. B, a determination about the mean number of children per household should not be made because the sample size is too small. All right, so B sounds really, really tempting because you might be thinking, 20 families, that's not that big of a number. But again, we don't know how many families there are in the community or households. Let's say there are only 30 or 40. So 20 in that case would actually be good. If there were 1,000, maybe not. But again, we don't have enough information to determine if this sample size is adequate, so that can't necessarily be true. C, the sampling method is flawed and they produce a biased estimate. All right, so let's look at where she surveyed people. At a playground, that's where she went and surveyed people. So wouldn't it be likely that for the people who she surveyed, if they were at a playground, they would probably be more inclined to have children? I mean, I personally like to go to the playground and play on the swings, even though I don't have any children, but that's probably just me. So the method is flawed because she went to a place that would particularly attract people who had children because that's where children play. So C sounds good. Let's squiggle that. D is saying the sampling method is not flawed. Well, that's pretty much the opposite of what we just said, so that's got to go. So choice C is correct. Up next, we have number 27. So they tell us in the question, the point P comma R lies on the line with this equation, where B is a constant. The point with coordinates 2P comma 5R lies on this line right here. If P cannot equal 0, what is the value of R over P? All right, so I see that they give me for each respective line, they give me the equation of the line and then they give me an X and Y coordinate that falls on the line. So let me go ahead and plug each respective pairing into its equation. So we know then that P comma R is a point on the line y equals x plus b. So we can go ahead and plug in P comma R. So P would be the x value and R would be the y value. So we get that R is equal to P plus B. And if we want to get B alone, because notice I have B in both of these equations, so I might be able to get 2 values for B and set them equal. In order to get B alone, we would get that B is equal to R minus P. Got to subtract the P here from both sides. So now let's look at the next point. Let's do this in a lighter blue. So we know that 2P comma 5R, that's on the line y equals 2x plus b. So again, I can go ahead and plug in 2p for x and 5r for y. So that gives me 5r is equal to 2 times 2p plus b. That gives us 5r is equal to 4p plus b. So getting b alone, we get that b is equal to 5r minus 4p. Just got to subtract the 4p over here. All right, so now that I have B equal to two different values, I can go ahead and set them equal to each other, keeping in mind that I want the value of R over P. So I don't need to solve for any particular, I don't need to get R is equal to something or P is equal to something. I just got to get R over P, what that value is. So we're going to set, let's do this in pink. We're going to do R minus P is equal to 5R minus 4P, because again, they're both equal to B, so we can set them equal to each other. All right, so let's get all of the P's on one side and all of the R's on the other side. So we can subtract R here. We get negative P is equal to 4R minus 4P. Add 4P to both sides. We then get that 3P is equal to 4R, and they want us to find the value of R over P. So what I'm going to do then is divide this side by P and this side by P, so I get that 3 is equal to 4R over P. And then in order to get the R over P alone here, I want to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So when we multiply by the reciprocal, we're trying to get rid of the number. So if we have 4 in the numerator, I want to multiply by 1/4, because then by putting a 4 in the denominator, the 4's end up canceling out. As you'll see over here, then we're just left with R over P. So we get then that R over P is equal to 3 over 4, which therefore makes our answer for number 27, choice B. You guessed it, now we are doing question number 28. So for 28, you can see that they're going to give us some background information up here. That really doesn't have any bearing on what we're looking at. They tell us that S1 and R1 are the standard deviation and range of the data before exercise, so that's the top set right here. And then S2 and R2 are the standard deviation and range of the data after exercise. So I'm going to call the first data set here data set 1 and the second one data set 2. So let's first start off with the range. So the range is a pretty easy metric to understand. It's just the largest value in the set minus the smallest value in the set. So for the top set here, set 1, that would be 88 minus 56, meaning that the range of this is 32. For the bottom set, set 2, we would get 112 as the largest minus 80 is the smallest, is 32. So we can see that both data sets have the same range, so I could cross out B and C because that's not what they are articulating. Now let's talk about the standard deviation. So the standard deviation is basically a measure of how spread out the data is. If the data is nice and spread out across a broad spectrum, it means the standard deviation is higher. If the data is all clustered and centered around one little area, it means the standard deviation is smaller. Alrighty, so let's go in pink. So we can see in data set 1, the standard deviation is going to be smaller because the data is all clustered about the center right here. But in data set 2, the data is very spread apart. It's not clustered or centered around any one particular area. So that means then that set 2 has a standard deviation that is higher than that of set 1. So choice A is saying that they have exactly the same range and exactly the same standard deviation. So that's not true. It has to be choice D. The range is the same, but the standard deviations are not the same. Next up, we got question number 29. So they tell us that the photocopy machine is initially loaded with 5,000 sheets of paper. And then it says the machine starts a large job and copies at a constant rate. Okay, so whenever we see constant rate, we automatically want to be thinking about linear growth or linear decay. So when we look at choices C and D, these are modeling an exponential situation, which is not constant growth. So automatically I'm going to knock out those two choices. So it has to be A or B, which you can notice are both lines. They're in a linear format. So it says after 20 minutes, it has used 30% of the paper. Which of the following equations models the number of sheets remaining in the machine m minutes after the machine started printing? Okay, so let's see. So if it used 30% of the paper, that would mean that we're going to multiply the 5,000 sheets by 30%. So 30% written as a decimal. All that we got to do is move the decimal place over 2 to the left. So we're gonna multiply by 0.3. So let's go ahead and do that. That ends up giving us, we have a calculator here, thank goodness, 1,500. So it's used 1,500 pages. And we know that it's using them at a constant rate. So it's the same number of sheets per minute. So if it used 1,500 in the 20 minutes, we could divide that by 20 minutes to see how many it's using per minute. So let's see what that would give us divided by 20. So it is using 75 sheets per minute, which therefore corresponds with answer choice B, because we start with 5,000 and then each minute we subtract 75 sheets. All right, and last but not least, we have number 30. So I feel like number 30 looks very complicated, but it's actually not that bad. So they tell us that we're given a graph of the function f and a table of the function g. The maximum value of f is k. Okay, so f, we know that that's on the graph. So this is the function f, as they told us right here. The maximum value of f is k. So the maximum value is just the highest point that it reaches, whatever that y value is. So we can see this is the maximum point, which is equal to 3. So k is equal to 3. Then they ask us for the value of g of k. So that's basically just asking us for the value of g of 3. So what it means whenever we plug a number into g, like g of 3, that means that that's the x value that we're plugging in. So we basically know that x is equal to 3, and we want to know what is g of x when x is equal to 3. So when we go and look that up in the table, x is equal to 3, we can see that corresponds with g of x being equal to 6. So g of x is going to be equal to 6 at that point. So that gives us then answer choice B. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and drop any comments for future videos below. Also, make sure to follow me on TikTok. Test Prep Tips is my username on there. Thanks so much for watching today's video, guys. Take care. Have a good one.